Mukam karoti kalam, pangum langayate girim. So, yat kripatamaham vande Sri Gurun Dinatarinam. If you have the mercy of the Guru and Krishna, a dumb person can, he speak very eloquently. At the same time, a lunged army, a person who is crippled, who will cross the mountain by jumping. In normal cases, he cannot walk, he cannot put one step. But if you have the mercy of the Lord and the Guru, he can jump over the mountain. So this is revealed in the scriptures. Of course, we have seen our practical examples also. Like, if we try to do on our own, we will be a big failure. But if we try to do by invoking the mercy of the Lord, we will be successful. So similarly, Srila Suta Goswami is also setting us this example, how we have to behave. First, he offers his obeisances to his Guru. Who is his Guru? Whom he is offering his prayers? Someone can unmute yourself and tell. From whom did he hear Bhagavatam?
Sukadeva Goswami.
Very nice, Prabhu. Yeah. So he's offering his prayers. So also, like whenever we offer a prayer or namaskara, obeisances, finally it reaches the Krishna. That is the main concept. That's the reason in our tradition, we offer obeisances to all our, elders, especially if in marriages or any function, the parents will tell children to offer the obeisances to everyone. So ultimately, that though we are offering the obeisances to that particular person, but finally it reaches Krishna. In Rigveda, there is a prayer. Akashat patitantoyam yatha gachanti sagaraha sarvadeva namaskaraha Shri Keshavam prati gacchati. Meaning, as the water, as a rainy water falls from the sky, it forms a small rivulet, then it will become a small river, then it joins the big river, and finally it reaches the ocean, right? Similarly, Sarvadeva Namaskaraha, and whatever the obeisances we are offering to the seniors, elders, Guru, and Devatas, finally it reaches Krishna. That is the conclusion. Here, Suta Goswami is also setting us this example by offering his obeisances to his Guru, which is Shukadeva Goswami. There's a beautiful prayer, as you've seen. First he congratulates all the sages who assembled in Naimisharanya for inquiring him such a wonderful queries. And, from the verse, second verse, he offers his respectful obeisances to Shukadeva Goswami. He says, Yam pravrajantam anupetam apeta krityam vaipayano virahakatura juhava putreti tanmayataya taravo abineduhu tam sarvabhuta hrudayam munimanatosmi. He's offering his respects to Shukadeva Goswami, who can enters the heart of all. And what happened, I hope, Subal Prabhu has explained you wonderfully. So he born at the age of 16, and as soon as he was born, and he is running away from his parents, because he know if he stay back at home, his parents will make him undergo all the purificatory process, which is called as samskaras. They will make him upanayana, then they will make him vivaha samskara, and they will bind him. So because of that, he don't want to get entangled. Just he want to run away, which he did. As soon as he is born, without staying there, immediately he started running. Then his father, Vasudevji, he's following him and he's screaming, "Oh my dear son, oh my dear son." Okay. So, but what did reply he get? Only the trees which are also in the same mood of Vasudev, they responded. Means whatever the Vasudevji was telling, the trees were echoing it. So that is a great personality of Sutta Goswami. And here, Shukadev Goswami, here Sutta is offering his prayer. In the third verse, he says, Eswanubhavam Akila Shruti Saramekam Adhyatma Deepam Atititirshitam Tamondam. And especially, he compiled this Srimad Bhagavatam for people like us, like Adhyatma Deepam Atititirshyatam Tamondam Samsarinam Karunam Yaha. So especially we, the samsaris means family holders, we are entangled in family affair, So first, when we get married, we have to settle down in our life, we have to establish. Then what happens? Then, the children born, then you have to give them education, you have to get them settled down. So then after, when that happens, you have to marry them. Then, you are aspiring for the grandchildren. Then you're thinking about grandchildren, marriage. So this cycle continues. So for the benefit of the samsaris, he is very, very mercifully compiled the Srimad Bhagavatam. He has spoken this Srimad Bhagavatam, which Sutta Goswami offer his prayers in this third prayer. Then he also offer his prayers to Naranarayana Rishi, Narayanam Namaskritya, Naram Chaiva Narottamam, Devim Saraswatim Vyasam, Tato Jayamudirayet. So then he congratulates all the sages who are assembled in Naimisharanya because they have posed him questions, So then he says that verse, it's a beautiful verse, you can show verse number 5, Prabhu, Subal Prabhu. Yeah. No, 5. Yeah. So maybe you can also chant, by muting yourself. Munaya sadhu prushtoham bhavadbhir lokamangalam yat krita krishna samprashno yenatma suprasidhati. These kind of questions, what happens? Like these peoples are asking the questions not for themselves, they're asking for the benefit of the whole world. Such questions are capable of completely satisfying the self. Normally we try to do our work and we don't get such satisfaction, but when you do it for the family members or a community or a program, you will get a more satisfaction. Similarly here, such questions, like maybe the sages, they're all introspects, they are well versed in they are all gnanis, they know the knowledge perfectly. But these questions, when they pose, they're asking for the benediction of the whole universe. So which is very much appreciated by Sutta Goswami. Then he answered the question, Savai Pumsam Paro Dharmo. If you remember, in the first chapter, in the ninth verse, the sages asked the first question, which is said, Tatta Tantranja Yusman Bhavata Yat Vinishchitam Pumsam Ekanta Shreyaha Tanna Samshitum Arhasi. So they asked him, so what you have ascertained to be the absolute and ultimate good for the people in general? This was their first question, for which Sukadeva Goswami answered. Okay, go back to verse number 6, bro. Savai Pumsam Paro Dharmo. Maybe one person can unmute yourself and repeat after me. Savai Pumsam
Savai Vipumsam
Paro Dharmo Yatho Bhaktir Adhokshaje Ahaituki Apratihata Yayatma Suprasidhati.
Suprasidhati.
Yeah, so in this, he answered the first question. What is the ultimate good for the people in general is to render devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Adokshaja. Adokshaja means, Akshaja means eyes. Adokshaja, he is not visible to our eyes. So he is beyond. Is all another meaning of Adakshajo is he is beyond the alphabet A and Ksha. Because in our alphabets we have I don't know in Marathi how much you have, but in Kannada we have 52 alphabets, starting from A and it goes up to Ksha. So beyond that there is nothing. So here also Adokshaja, one meaning is beyond all these things. Also Akshaja means eyes. So Adokshaja means he is not visible to our eyes and senses. Adokshaja's other meaning is he is beyond our sense perception. To that person, if we render devotional service, then we get satisfaction. And again, such devotional service should be unmotivated. Okay, means we are not doing it for any gain, and also it has to be uninterpreted. So I hope Subal Prabhu has dealt this verse in detail, so we don't go much into this. Okay, this is the condition. Ahaituki apratiyata. By doing that, we get the satisfaction. So then we will start from today's verse. Okay, again, if you go back to the first chapter, in the the sages ask the second question, which is verse number 11. Yeah, which talks about this. Bhurini bhuri karmani. Can somebody repeat?
Bhurini bhuri karmani.
Shrotavyani vibhagashaha.
Shrotanama vibhagyaha.
Atha sadhu.
Atah sadhu.
Atra yatsaram.
Yatsaram.
Samudratya.
Samardratya.
Manishaya.
Manishaya.
Bhuri bhadraya bhutanam.
Bhuri bhadraya bhutanam.
Yenatma suprasidhati.
Yenatma suprasiddhati.
So in this, they are asked, there are so many scriptures, there are so many duties. So, but what is the conclusion of the Vedas? What you have ascertained to be the good for all of us? Please, because we don't have time to read all those scriptures. Even if we have time, when we read, we may not have the proper understanding. Please, therefore, O sage, please give us the essence of all the scripture, and which is when it is good for all living entities. So this was the question posed by which was the second question posed by the sages. And in the 7th verse, Sutta Goswami answered it in the second chapter. In the second chapter, 7th verse, which will start from today's. Okay. Again, somebody can repeat after this, Prabhu, after me. Vasudeve Bhagavati.
Vasudeve Bhagavati.
Bhakti Yoga Prayojitaha.
Bhakti Yoga Prayojita.
Janayatyasu Vairagyam.
Janayatyayasyu Vairagyam.
Jnanam cha yad ahaitukam.
Jnanam cha yat achaitikam.
Ahaitukam.
Ahaitukam.
Yeah. So by rendering devotional service unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, one immediately acquires causeless knowledge and detachment from the world. So this is what the answer to the second question. Okay. So this is again, when you do the devotional service, two things happens. Once you get a knowledge, and by the pursuit of the knowledge, what happened? You start developing detachment from this material world. So for example, you are attracted to something, which is not so valuable, so which you are not aware. But when somebody points out that, so this is a mistake you are doing, so you got the knowledge. By virtue of the knowledge, you try to avoid those activities. Same thing here, when we render devotional to service and to Krishna, so what happens? We get the causeless knowledge. Causeless knowledge means Krishna is so merciful, he will give you the knowledge. So by showering his mercy. And at the same time, by virtue of that, you try to develop detachment from this material world. So this is what the answer to the second question. So this is a beautiful purport by Srila Prabhupada. He analyzes, how this Bhakti Yoga is greater than all other yogas, namely Karma, Gnana, and Upasana. So he says, some people may argue, Bhakti is meant for the people who are less intelligent people, because they cannot read the scriptures, they cannot understand, they cannot assimilate. For such people, this Bhakti is recommended. No, absolutely no. Bhakti is the highest. Like as we have seen, the argument which other people they pose, because this Upanishads and other Vedic scriptures, it is not straightforward one. If you read, you have understood. No, there are so many hidden meanings in that. So you have to literally understand it under the guidance of the proper spiritual master who has understood this. So, but unfortunately, when we read it, we will not able to understand it. As a result of which, we will get some not the proper understanding. So such people will argue, because like I have read Upanishads, I have read Vedas, I'm expert in this. If you remember, in the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna talks about them. Veda Vadharata Partha, he called them. Means they are scrutinizingly studied the Vedas, and they are expert. They can quote the verses like anything from the Vedas and Upanishads, but they will fail to understand what is the purpose of Veda, which is given in the 15th chapter, 15th verse. Anybody remember what is the 15th chapter, 15th verse? Where Krishna says about the Vedas?
Yeah, he says out of all Vedas, it is basically we need to know the Krishna itself only.
Very
the
good.
summary of Vedas is Krishna.
Yeah. Do you remember the Sanskrit verse, Prabhu?
No, Prabhu.
Vedaishta sarvair
Vedas.
ahameva vedyo. Means after all the Vedas, I am to be known. Okay. So these people are so expert, any Upanishad you ask them, they will quote from Mundaka Upanishad, from Shvetashvara Upanishad, from Ishopanishad, Bruhadaranyaka Upanishad. You name them, they will quote. But they fail to understand what is the purpose behind it. That's what Krishna calls them as Veda Vadarata Partha. So they are Veda Vadaratas. They are very expert. And, but they fail to understand the conclusion. So here, the people will argue, so Bhakti is the people who cannot understand it. No, it's not the fact. So Bhakti is meant for everyone. Even here in this case, particularly take the case of Srila Sukadeva Goswami. Sukadeva Goswami, he is a highly educated, he is very expert in all these things. And that is the reason he left the home and he wants to be alone, and which he is doing it. But so he, in one sense, he is the Atma Rama. He is self-satisfied. But as soon as he heard the glories of Krishna, immediately he come back to his father, and he wanted to study Srimad Bhagavatam under his father. So this will come in the later chapters. When that portion comes, we'll discuss in length. So this Bhakti is the highest among everything. So normally people will say, Bhakti is meant for the people with less intelligence, especially the women's Shudra. Okay, so but factually it is not. It is meant for everyone. So it bhakti is like, it's a like an elevator. You are staying in a like seventh floor in a building, and so you have various places you can climb the steps, stairs you can climb and reach the seventh floor. But if you take the elevator, you will reach it faster. So with not much of the effort. Similarly, this bhakti yoga is also like an elevator which advances our process in the bhakti. So that's what quoted here. And similar quote you will find in the Bhagavad Gita 9th chapter, where Krishna says, Shudro Kim Punar Brahmana. That's next verse. Before that, he says, what to speak of even by offering devotional service to me, the less intelligent people like Shudras and Vaishyas and Stri, they will attain me. And what to speak of the Brahmanas and highly qualified people? Certainly they will also attain me. So that is a statement Krishna makes. The same thing here is also emphasized. Okay. Then, then Prabhupada also writes about, about the principle of knowledge and detachment. Knowledge and detachments, these are very essential factor on the path of our devotional service. The whole spiritual process is meant for us to have a perfect knowledge, that is everything, material knowledge and also spiritual knowledge. And by having those knowledges, what happens? We get detached from the material affection and attached to the spiritual activities. And here one caution, also Prabhupada makes is that detachment doesn't mean that negation. So you leave everything and go to forest. No, that's not the same. That's not the thing. Like in Bhagavad Gita also, when Krishna is giving advice to Krishna, what he says? Arjuna wanted to leave everything and go to the forest. But Krishna, he says, no, as a Kshatriya, you have to fight. You have to fight and you have to face the challenges. So be in your position, sthane sthita, and you think of me and do your activities. So we are also situated in various positions. We have to be in our respective ashrams. Like most of us all grahasthas, our duty is to take care of our family as well as our children. So we have to be within that ashrama and at the same time cultivate the spiritual knowledge. And by avoiding the things which is detrimental to our devotional service. So that is what here meant by detachment. Okay. So Naishkarma means it's nothing, like you keep on avoiding everything. So don't work, don't go to the work, sit at home, or leave everything and go to Himalaya. That is not the way. That is not the real meaning of detachment. Detachment means be there in your ashram, but don't get attachment to the which are detrimental to our devotional service. The example in Bhagavad Gita, what Krishna says, like Padma Patram Ivambasa, just as a lotus leaf, which is inside the water. When it is inside the water, what all we think? We think it's all become wet. Because the moment it comes out, not even a single drop of water you will find it. It is dry. So that is how we should be in our sadhakas. We have to cultivate that. So we will. In conclusion, in the final paragraph, Srila Prabhupada writes, in conclusion, one who is a pure devotee has all other good qualities, namely knowledge, detachment, etc. But one who has only the knowledge or detachment is not necessarily well acquainted with the principle of bhakti cult. So bhakti is supermost occupation of the human beings. This is what the conclusion of this verse. So by rendering the devotional service, what happens? We get knowledge. When you get the knowledge, automatically, we get the detachment for the unwanted things. So after asking this question, then further, so we will move on to the next portion, another from shloka number 8 to 15. It describes only bhakti is to be gained by our prescribed duties. This is the topic which we are going to discuss from the verse number 8 to 15. We will try to cover as many as possible. Okay. Verse number 8. Dharma swanusthita pumsam. Yeah, someone can unmute yourself and you can chant.
Dharma Sanskrita Varnam
Dharmaha swanusthita
Savinstita
pumsam
Pumsam
Vishvaksena
Vishvaksena
Kata Suyaha
Katasvayaha
Notpadayed
Notpadet
Yadiratim
Yadiratim
Shrama Evahi
Srama Evahi
Kevalam.
Palam.
Okay. So here it says the occupational activities a man performs according to his own position are only so much useless labor if they do not provoke attraction to the message of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, Shrama Evahi Kevalam. We also do so many hard work we put, right? So ultimately, if we don't get attraction to the message of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Srimad Bhagavatam, and here particularly Sutta Goswami is telling it is only a useless labor. Why it is useless labor? Because see, so many other activities we perform. So ultimately, those activities will make us bondage within this material world more and more. So the more you engage, the more you get attachment. For example, last week I think surely you're discussing about pravritti marga and nivritti marga. So pravritti marga means what happens? You get attached to that and you keep on doing it. So thinking that one day you will get renunciation. That is not possible. For example, if you like gulab jamun, so what does pravritti marga advises you? You'll say, okay, eat more gulab jamun. So then from next day onwards, you don't like it. So that's not fact. Maybe it happens for 1 day or 2 days. Okay, today I eat some 10 gulab jamuns. It doesn't mean that, okay, I'll get, some stomach upset. And, then maybe on that particular day, if I see gulab jamun, I may not like it. But after 1 or 2 days, again, I will be having the same cravings for eating gulab jamun. So the sense gratification material are like that. So it's very difficult to refrain the senses. It makes us more entanglement. So, but when we associate with the devotees and when we talk about Krishna and when we hear about Krishna, slowly we start getting taste for Krishna. Our Acharya Rupa Goswami, he gives a definition. So which he says, he gives an analogy. For example, he gives a verse also, but anyway, I'll not go into that. He talks about when a person is having a jaundice, so he may not able to appreciate the sweetness of the sugar candy. But one who is actually a jaundice patient, in order to get him cured, one has to eat the sugar candy. But the sweet for him, it tastes bitter because of the disease jaundice. But when he keep on eating the sugar candy, so when he's out of the jaundice disease, then he will be all right. Then he will start appreciating the sweetness of the candy. Similarly, all the activities we perform, which should provoke, interest in Krishna's activities. If we don't do that, then it is useless. Okay, that is what this particular verse talks about. So the spirit soul, needs must be fulfilled. Simply, or another example, our Acharya, gives. For example, you have a cage and you bought one bird and kept inside the cage. And what you have done, you have bought a silver cage, and every day you clean that cage so nicely, you give proper polish, and you're making shining of that cage. But inside that cage, there is a bird. You forgot to feed that bird. So day by day, what that bird is happening? It is becoming deteriorating, and it is losing his strength. And one day it will die. Similarly, the sense gratification process is compared to that thing. We are trying to maintaining our body, which is considered as the cage. But we have forgotten about our soul, which is our consciousness. Without soul, this body is nothing, right? So in Bhagavad Gita, you have read it. It says na hanyate hanyamane sharire, right? So similarly, if you take care of only the body, so it's useless. But even the Atma also you should please, so that Atma is satisfied only when we hear to the Krishna Katha. So maybe we do so many other things, but that will not give us happiness. That's what this verse talks about. And also in further, Prabhupada makes, few interesting comments he makes. He talks about the need of a spirit soul is that he wants to get out of the limited sphere of the material bondage and fulfill his desire for complete freedom. He wants to get out of the covered walls of the greater universe. He wants to see the free light and spirit. That complete freedom is achieved when he meets the complete spirit, the personality of Godhead. Such a wonderful statement Srila Prabhupada makes here. Okay, there is a dormant affection for God within everyone. Spiritual existence is manifested through the gross body and mind in the form of perverted affection for gross and subtle matter. Okay, so this is what Prabhupada here mentions. It's very nice. Even if we go up to the Swargaloka, we will find no permanent abode for this hankering soul. The hankering soul must be satisfied by the perfect scientific process of perfect devotional service. So maybe we all experience, right? Like we do so many other things, but at the end of the day, so we get distress, like you help the person out of the way, and finally what he does, that person will betray with you. So like that, so many things happens. But ultimately, but if you do some little service to Krishna, so maybe you go to some temple and you start distributing some prasadam, or maybe some any service you do, then you get a greater satisfaction. So that is what is stated in this particular verse. So we'll go a little quickly. We already 45 minutes we crossed. Okay. Next, shloka number 9. Dharmasya hi apavargasya.
Dharmasya hi apavargasya.
Narto arthaya.
Narto ardhaya.
Pakalpate.
Pakalpate.
Nartasya.
Nartasya.
Dharmaikantasya.
Dharmaikantasya.
Kamo labhaya.
Kamo labhaya.
Hi smritaha.
Hi smritaha.
Yeah. So maybe you can read the translation also, Prabhu.
Yeah, sure. all occupational engagements are certainly meant for ultimate liberation. They should never be performed for material gains. Furthermore, according to sages, one who is engaged in the ultimate occupational service should never use material gain to cultivate sense gratification.
Yeah. So here this verse talks about we should strive for the ultimate liberation, not for any material gain. So even when we do bhakti also, automatically you're prone to get three things. One is puja, labha, pratishtha. What does that puja? Like people started worshipping you. You are such a great devotee, Prabhu. You are doing such a remarkable service. So that is puja. Then so because of that, they will start giving you some, they start giving donations or whatever, in kind or cash or whatever, they will do it. So you will gain, you will get the labha. Then by that, what happens? You will get pratishtha. Okay, oh, so I'm a great devotee. So that should not be our attitude. So here, what the Srimad Bhagavatam is telling us is all occupational engagements are certainly meant for ultimate liberation. So again, they should be never performed for the material gain. So we should not use this for our personal benefit. So in the seventh verse, we already discussed, Vasudeve Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojitaha Janayat Yasu Vairagyam. So when you render devotional service, you get a perfect knowledge and perfect detachment, right? So again, why are so-called men of religion allured by material gain, right? This question arises because material gain can enable one to fulfill his desire, which in turn satisfy his sense gratification. The cycle of occupational engagements includes so-called religiosity, followed by material gain, and followed by the fulfillment of desires. Okay, meaning dharma, artha, kama, moksha. This is again a cycle. So you are trying to follow the dharma for what? For the material benefit, to satisfy your kamas. Dharma you are following for the satisfying kama. Then dharma artha. So so in order to maintain your life, you need some economical this thing which is called artha. So you do that. So when you have artha, you have so many desires within us, and we have to satisfy that. And then finally we think about moksha. Sometimes it may happen, it may not happen. So this cycle we are doing it. We already discussed about this point when Vasudeva compiled before compiling Srimad Bhagavatam. So Narada was chastised Vasudevji because you have emphasized so much on dharma, artha, kama, moksha, which is chaturvida purushartha. So people will get confused and they will stick to that process because it is authentic. For them, it is authentic. It is given by Srila Vasudeva. Then why should we follow that? Why should we follow any other process? So he chastises him and he tells to write Srimad Bhagavatam. So here also, this verse is also emphasizing the same fact. And why? Because, if we do for any material benefit, again, we unnecessarily will get caught into the cycle of, this sense gratification, and it will be very difficult. So again, further, in elsewhere, Prahlad Maharaj, he talks about the same thing, like about sense gratification. He quotes one verse which talks about Sukham Aindriyakam Daitya Deha Yogena Dehinam Sarvatra Labhyate Daivat Yatha Dukkam Ayatnataha, which means like in whatever the species we are in, so we get whatever the happiness is destined in our life. Okay, for example, like even it's not necessarily to enjoy your senses, you have to be in human form of life. No, in whatever the species, maybe cat, dog, the hawks, every species will have their own set of, sense enjoyment that you automatically will get. So just as all of us, none of us want miseries, right, in our life, but automatically it comes. Similarly, happiness also comes. So, similar, in the similar line, this verse also talks about you should not be we should not do any devotional service for our material benefit. Now we'll move on to the verse number 10, which talks about, okay, can somebody unmute and repeat after me. Kamasya nendriya priti.
Kamasya nendriya priti.
Labho jiveta yavata.
Labho jiveta yavata.
Jivasya tattva jignasa.
Jivasya tattva jignasa.
Narto yasceha karma bihi.
Narto yasceha karma viti.
Yeah, you can read the translation also too.
Life's desires should never be directed towards sense gratification. One should desire only a healthy life or self-preservation. Since a human being is meant for inquiry about the absolute truth, nothing else should be the goal of one's work.
Yeah. So continuing the previous verse, we should not do anything for the material benefit. So further he is emphasizing on this factor. Kamasya nendriya priti. Sorry. So here in this verse, the life's desire should never be directed towards sense gratification. Okay, so same thing, like we already we discussed this verse from Prahlad Maharaj. So we will get the sense gratification what is destined to us, and then unnecessarily we should not waste our time by indulging in such activities. The phone is coming. 1 second. Okay, so in the purport, Srila Prabhupada, he talks about, how this now the political, affair is going on everywhere. All the political leaders, they, in order to get the votes, they will make promise, they will make a false promise to the voters. They will, provide all the necessity for our sense gratification. So the people also, without, they don't want to work hard, and they want to get all this benefit. So as a result of which they will vote them. And when they come to the power, they will not able to fulfill their promises. Again, in the next election, they were thrown out, the next party comes. This is happening everywhere and every part of the world. So here, like Srimad Bhagavatam talks about, we should not aspire for such things at all. Just render devotional service, which we get self-satisfaction, and automatically, we will get elevation. The seekers of the absolute truth are never allured by the unnecessary engagement in sense gratification, because the serious students seeking the absolute truth are always overwhelmed with the work of researching the truth in every sphere of life. Therefore, the ultimate end must be seeking after the absolute truth, and that sort of engagement will make one happy, and he will be less engaged in varieties of sense gratification. And what that absolute truth is explained here in the next verse. We'll see what is the absolute truth.
Prabhu.
So, yeah.
In the purport, there is a word used, altruism. Just see the third line.
Yeah.
In the 10th. What exactly it means? altruism. Altruism. That is the third line, third sentence.
Yeah.
In
So that is
politics, social service.
altruism.
Altruism means selfless concern. So it's basically for the well-being of others. If you don't have any concern, if you are selfless, that's called altruism.
Thank you, dear.
Yeah,
Welcome.
because we see such quality, Prabhu. Like, there are so many, like political workers, of course, they do it for their own benefit. Then they have social services, right? They will go out of the way and they will help the society. Then, they will take care for the others. And again, that is altruism. Then you have philanthropies, they will donate a huge funds. They will construct hospitals and, so many, charitable institutes. Okay. So ultimately, yeah. So these kind of people will find. But these people also, ultimately, these are also considered as one type of sense gratification only. Because, like you must have seen, you go to a temple, a person has donated one tube light. On that, he writes his name, donated by so and so. Okay. So, like you're donating, no doubt. You're doing the philanthropic work, you're doing altruism. But what is the motive behind that? You have to be recognized, right? Okay. Should we move on to the next verse, Prabhu? Okay. So now we talk about what is the absolute truth. Shloka number verse. Shloka number 11. Vadanti tat tattvavidaha.
Vadante tat tattvavidaha
Tattvam yajnanamadvayam.
tattvanam yagnanayam
Brahmeti paramatmeti.
brahmeti paramatmeti
Bhagavan iti shabdyate.
bhagavan iti shabdayate.
Yeah. So you can read that translation.
Learned transcendentalists who know the absolute truth call this non-dual substance Brahman, Paramatma or Bhagavan.
Yeah. So the absolute truth is referred in three ways. One is Brahman realization, Paramatma realization, and Bhagavan realization. So, Brahman realization, 30 minutes. 30 minutes. Subal Prabhu, we are up to 11:30 or 11?
It's 11:30, Prabhu.
Okay. So we have time. Okay. So the absolute truth is understood by the various people, in three ways. One is Brahman realization, then Paramatma realization, and Bhagavan realization. In the first paragraph of Purport, Srila Prabhupada writes, the absolute truth is both subject and object, and there is no qualitatively difference there. Therefore, Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan are qualitatively one and same. The same substance is realized as impersonal Brahman by the Upanishads, as localized Paramatma by the Hiranyagarbhas or yogis, or as the Bhagavan by the devotees. In other words, Bhagavan or personality of Godhead is the last word of the absolute truth. So I'm sure you already discussed about these points. Like the absolute truth is one, and according to our understanding, the people will give different name. So some people will have only the portion of understanding, which they call it as Brahman. They call it as Brahma Jyoti. So then second realization is Paramatma. The third realization is Bhagavan. Okay. So the Brahman realization is what? For example, when we look at the sun rays, the sun is very effulgent and his rays are coming all over, and we consider those rays to be the that is ultimate. Okay, that's the absolute truth, we think, because of our understanding. Okay, of course they are also right, Shima, they are not wrong actually, but their understanding is not full. So they call it as a Brahman realization, a Brahma Jyoti. Then other person, he's slightly intelligent. He thinks from where this sun rays are coming. Then he tried to do some research and he will come to conclusion that there is a sun planet. From that sun planet comes the sun rays. Okay, so this is the second type of understanding, which is Paramatma realization. Then the third realization, even within that sun planet, there is a person who controls that planet, who is a Surya Bhagavan, the sun god, right? So that is a Bhagavan. He is the person who controls it. So that is a Bhagavan feature of the realization. So like a crude example, some devotees give, even some person, he has not seen what is a train. Okay, so he goes, and it's like, basically when the train started way back, during British time in India, the villagers, they were not aware what was a train. So when the train came, first a group of people, villagers, they went to see the train. The train is coming from a far distance. They could able to see only the light. So the light is coming, and they thought, oh, train means just light. So they didn't have patience, to wait till the train reaches. So they saw from a distance, and they concluded train means it's only a light. So, and they went back. And some people stayed back, and the train came and they stopped. So as soon as the train came, they have seen it has got an engine and it has got so many bogies. And for them, they understood train to be, it has got one engine and so many bogies, and they left the place. And some people stayed back, and a person, the driver of the train, he gets out of the engine. So he is controlling this thing. So this is one crude example how we can understand this Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan realization. So similarly, there are so many realizations, like in our studies also, in schools, they don't teach, like calculus and differentiation, right? So because we need some maturity to understand that. Okay, similarly, here also in the spiritual knowledge, if you want to understand it, so you should have some kind of intelligence. So people, they will conclude the absolute truth as Brahman realization, Paramatma realization, and Bhagavan, and it's okay. But only thing, other two realizations are not full as compared to the Bhagavan realization. Okay, so this is what is meant for discussed in this verse. Then we'll move on to the verse number 12. Okay. Tashraddhadanamunayo
Tat Shraddha Dhanamunayo
Jnana Vairagya Yuktaya
Jnana Vairagya Yuktaya
Pashyanti Atmani Chatmanam
Pashyanti Atmanischatmanam
Bhaktya Shruta Grihitaya.
Bhaktya Sruta Hi Gruhitaya.
Can you read
The-
the
Yeah, the seriously inquisitive student or sage, well equipped with knowledge and detachment, realizes the absolute truth by rendering devotional service in terms of what he has heard from the Vedanta Shruti.
Okay, okay. Okay, number. Sorry. Yeah. So the seriously inquisitive student or sage, well equipped with the knowledge and detachment, realizes that absolute truth by rendering devotional service in terms of what he has heard from the Vedanta Shruti. So this word talks about the same thing in the purport. In the first para of the purport, Srila Prabhupada writes, the absolute truth is realized in full by the process of devotional service to the Lord Vasudeva, or the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is full-fledged absolute truth. Brahman is his transcendental bodily effulgence, and Paramatma is his partial representation. As such, Brahman or Paramatma realization of the absolute truth is but a partial realization. There are 4 different types of human beings: Karmis, Jnanis, Yogis, and the devotees. Karmis are materialistic, whereas other 3 are transcendental. Okay, so Karmis means basically they want everything for their sense gratification, and they are on the materialistic platform only, whereas other 3, Gnani, Yogis, and Bhaktis, they are transcendentalists. Means they are rendering service to the Lord. Okay, the first class transcendentalist are the devotees who are realized the Supreme Person. So just we have seen the example, like a train and the train driver. Yeah, so the train driver, that's considered as a highest perfection. Yeah, so similar. The second class transcendentalist, those who are partially realize the absolute truth. And the third class are barely realized. Okay, so in Bhagavad Gita also you will find this description, and also in other Vedic literatures we will find such realization. And as Brahman and Paramatma realization are imperfect of the absolute truth, so that means the realizing Brahman and Paramatma, that path of Jnana and Yoga are also imperfect, which means realizing the absolute truth, devotional service based on foreground of full knowledge combined with the detachment of the material association, and which is fixed by the oral reception of Vedanta Shruti, is the only perfect method, by which we all which the seriously inquisitive student can realize the absolute truth. So Vedanta Shruti. Shruti means, we are hearing, Shrutis. So, we have not seen, but there are people who have seen it. The Shruti Shastras are there. So we follow them. And by virtue of that, we will get the knowledge. So the example, even in Ishopanishad, it's stated, the example, we consider the Shrutis as our mother. Because if you want to know who is our father, who can tell us? It's only our mother who can tell who is our father, right? So we may argue that, now the technology is so advanced, we can do the DNA test and blah, blah, blah. Again, if you do all those things also, you have to have some faith with the doctors. Like, what if the doctors give you a wrong reports, right? So, and why waste so much time, doing all those things? Our mother is there. Just let's go to our mother. We'll ask mother, Mom, who is my father? She will tell. So, similarly, like by hearing the Shrutis, we will acquire the perfect knowledge, the correct, perfect knowledge, and other process we may try to do, but we may not get the ultimate conclusion. And sometimes it may be also a it may disturb us, it may take away from the real path. That is what has been discussed in this particular verse. So, there are so many things like Shruti, Smriti, Purana, Pancharatra. So all these are meant for devotional service only. So some people, sometimes what we do is, these followers of these four principles like Shruti, Smriti, Purana, Pancharatra, like they are also like Vedavadaratas. They are expert in this subject. But they will try to pose their own theory and by confusing others. So our Goswamis, our other Shastras talks about if such people are doing it, so they're just creating, disturbance in our society. So that is the caution we get from these things. Okay. In the final word, in the last paragraph of the Prophet Srila Prabhupada writes, an unauthorized devotee should never be recognized as a pure devotee. By assimilation of such message from the Vedic literature, one can see all pervading localized aspects of the personality within himself constantly. This is called Samadhi. Okay, so we are moving to the verse number 13. So now, what is the conclusion of Varnashrama Dharma? So this we are discussing in this verse number 13. Okay, can somebody unmute and chant behind me? Chant after me. Ataha Pumbir.
Ataha Pumbir.
Dvija Shrestha.
Dvija Shrestha.
Varnashrama.
Varnashrama.
Vibhagashaha.
Vibhagashaha.
Swanustitasya.
Swanustitasya.
Dharmasya.
Dharmasya.
Samsiddhir.
Samsiddhir.
Haritoshanam.
Haritoshanam.
Yeah, you can read that.
O best among the twice born, it is therefore concluded that the highest perfection one can achieve by discharging the duties prescribed for one's own occupation according to caste divisions and orders of life is to please the personality of Godhead.
Yeah. So we all know, right? There are 4 types of varnas and 4 types ashramas. Can somebody quickly say what are the 4 varnas?
Brahmana, Kshatriya, Sudra, Vaishya.
Okay, very nice, Prabhu. Thank you. And 4 ashramas?
Grahastha Ashrama, Vanaprastha
Balya.
Ashrama, and
Balya.
Balya.
Okay.
Fourth one is
Prabhu, Brahmacharya, Grahastha, Vanaprastha and Sannyas.
Correct. So Balya also in, okay. So Balya normally that's considered as Brahmacharya. Brahmacharya means like student. So Grahastha is a family holder. Okay. Then Vanaprastha is a retired person. Then Sannyasa is the 4th order. Okay, this is ashrama. Then Brahmana, Kshatriya, Shudra, and Vaishya. Vaishya and Shudra. These are the 4 categories. So in whatever the Varna or ashrama we are situated in, the ultimate goal is to satisfy Hari. Samsiddhim Haritoshanam. So we cannot say like I'm a Shudra, so I'm not supposed to do all these things. So this used to be there in olden days. Some high caste society like such as Brahmanas, they used to exploit the old people. I mean the other class people like especially the Shudras and Vaishyas. they used to exploit. So, but in whatever the varnas we are in, and whatever the ashramas, our goal is to please the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as enunciated in the above verses, through the process of bhakti. So bhakti is something, like Prabhupada gives the definition for the bhakti as a devotional service. Means it's a verb. It's not an adjective, or it's not a noun. It's a verb. It's an activity. So by performing those particular activities, you get a taste. Like some of my friends used to say, when they get into the bad habits like smoking or drinking, in the first place they will not relish either tobacco or the liquor, right? So it may taste them bitter or anything, but slowly, gradually, as they practice it, as they keep on doing it, then they will get the taste, right? Similarly, similarly, what we have to do is, we have to cultivate this, bhakti. So the sadhana bhakti definition our Rupa Goswami gives. So it's an activity. By performing gradually, it awakens the love of Godhead within us. So that is called as sadhana bhakti. So this is the definition of bhakti. So in whatever the varna we are in, and whatever the ashrama is we are in, so we have to perform the devotional service, and we try to get back to the back home, back to Godhead. It not necessarily like you have, if you want to go back to Godhead, you have to be a brahmana only. It's not necessary. Or you have to be a sannyasi only. No. So it only depends on your sincerity. In the third chapter of Bhagavad Gita, you have seen, right? Mithya charasa uchyate. The Lord says, a person, one may be posing as a sannyasi, okay, and he is putting, his sannyasi robes, and he is declaring himself, he has renounced everything, but within his mind, he is dwelling upon the sense objects, okay. So that is considered as a mithyachara. Like you may see a pujari in the temple, and he is doing a worshipping of the deities so nicely, but he may be thinking something sense objects within him, right? On the contrary, a shudra, or a person who is cleaning the temple, maybe he belongs to a lower caste or whatever, but he is sincerely thinking about the Lord while cleaning the temple or whatever the activities he is performing. He is much better than these two categories, because he is not posing any mithyachara. He is not showing any duplicity. So that's why the bhakti is such a beautiful thing. Anybody in any stage you can get back. So that's what it's stated in this verse. And in whatever the varnashrama, the main goal of varnashrama is to please the Supreme Personality of Godhead. I'm sure you all know the one Leela. One time there is a cobbler. Anybody know the story of cobbler and a brahmana?
No.
So I think Naradji was passing when the Brahmana said, since you are going to Lord Vishnu, can you ask him when I will be liberated? And then he went to a cobbler, and he asked the same thing. Cobbler also asked, can you, whenever you're there, you can ask that. When Narad went to Lord Vishnu, he simply gave a reply, you tell them, both of them, and you will come to know what is the reply. I am putting a elephant into the nose of the
Needle.
Yes.
Yeah.
So when he came back, he went to Brahmana, and Brahmana said, how it is possible? It can never be like this. I think you are fooling me. And that's why Narad understood that yes, this man cannot get liberation so fast. And when he went to the cobbler said, If he is doing this, he is capable of doing everything. And that's why Narad decided, yes, this cobbler will certainly get in the liberation in next birth. This small I know, I don't know.
Yeah, Prabhu. No, you're correct. Thank you. Thank you, Sushil Prabhu, for sharing this in the class. Yeah, so as Prabhu mentioned, there are like both the people, Narada approaches both them, one Brahmana, and he's very like, he is expert in, all Shastras, he chant Vedas, mantras so perfectly. And, then he, every day he wake up early and he do all his Sandhya Vandana and stuff like that. He recites all the Purusha Sukta, Shri Sukta prayer, and he worship the Lord so nicely. And he, when Narad Muni comes, he asks him when I'll go back home. Same question with the cobbler. And when comes back, as Sushil Prabhu mentioned, like Narad Muni, he Brahmana asked what was Lord was doing in Vaikunta. He says he was passing through a elephant in the eyes of a needle. Then he says, because he has studied all the Vedas, right? He can ascertain what is good, what is not. Then he says, how is it possible? How an elephant can go in the eyes of a needle? Right? Oh, needle ka eyes, it's so small, right? Only the thread can pass through it. So how can you do that? So he says, okay, means he don't have full faith. On the contrary, the cobbler says, yes, it's possible for the Lord. The example he gives, you have seen the banyan tree, right? Ashwatha Vruksha. I hope you all have seen.
Yes,
right?
yes.
So can you? I mean, you have seen that seed of that that Ashwatha Vruksha.
Yeah.
It's very tiny, right? Like smaller than the mustard seed. Okay. When the Lord has, kept such a big tree in one small seed, for them it is nothing impossible. That is the faith, right? So, we have to try to understand, we should not speculate with our mental, this thing. We should not speculate with our mental knowledge or our material knowledge. So we have to follow the Shastras and Shrutis. And again, the goal of our Varnashrama Dharma is to follow the Samsiddhim Haritoshanam. We will move on to the next verse quickly. Okay. So after explaining this, he says, okay, next verse to Balpro. तस्मादेकेन मनसा
तस्मानेकेद मनसा
भगवान् सात्वतां पतिः
भगवान् स्वात्मात् पतिः
श्रोतव्यः कीर्तितव्यश्च
श्रोतव्यः कीर्तिवस्यः
येयः पूज्यश्च नित्यधा.
ध्येयः पूज्यस्य का नमस्त्या.
Okay. So read the translation.
Therefore, with one pointed attention, one should constantly hear about, glory, remember, and worship the personality of Godhead, who is the protector of the devotees.
Yeah. So tasmat ekena manasa. You have come across this tasmat word is very common, right? In Bhagavad Gita also you have heard. Can anyone remember that? In the 8th chapter. Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu, Krishna says, right? Okay, means tasmat means therefore. Therefore, with one pointed attention, one should constantly hear about, glorify, remember, and worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is known as Satvatampati. Satvatampati means one who protects his devotees. So this should be our goal of life. So what is that? Strotavyaha kirtitavyascha means always constantly hear about him, glorify him, and worship him. So all this process is very well given, like we get up and we chant our rounds. So then we listen to the Srimad Bhagavatam and we read Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, the scriptures. Okay. Then also we do deity worship. This is perfectly given. It's an easy process. There is no restriction, with our capacity, we can perform this. So the process is very simplified. So we all move to the last shloka for the day. Shloka number 15. Okay. So yad anudyasena yuktaha
Yet anudyasina yuktaha
karma granthi nibandhanam
karma grande
bandhanam
indanti kovidah tasya
chindanti kovidastasya
ko na kuryat katharatim.
kona kuryat katharatim.
Yeah, read the translation, bro.
With sword in hand, intelligent men cut through the binding knots of reactionary work, karma, by remembering the personality of Godhead. Therefore, who will not pay attention to his message?
Yeah. So what this verse talks about? So karma granthi nibandhanam. So we are going to cut the knots of karma granthi. So that's how is that possible? Simply by remembering the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The process is so simple. Then such a facility is given. Who will not pay attention to this message? This verse talks about this. And so in the second paragraph, Srila Prabhupada writes, liberation from the material bondage is therefore a byproduct of devotional service. Attainment of spiritual knowledge is not sufficient to ensure liberation. Such knowledge must be overcoated with devotional service so that ultimately devotional service also predominates. Then the liberation is made possible. Okay. So this is a Bhakti Yoga is a very easy process which is referred throughout the Srimad Bhagavatam. And moreover, like as we have discussed, this by performing this devotional service, what happens? Prema Pumarto Mahan. So actually, we know there are three kinds of what is called? I'm not getting that word. Okay, so there are three processes, which is called as Sambandha, Abhideya, and Prayojana. Sambandha means to know our relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Abhideya means to act according to our relationship with the Lord. And the third one is to attain the perfection of life, Prayojana. So that is, we have to attain the perfection. What is the perfect? Attaining the perfection means that is given by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Like in sometimes Vedas are also, it is not very clearly mentioned. In Brahma Samhita, Brahma says, Vedaishta sarvair aham eva, he says, Vedeshu durlabha madurlabha matma bhaktho. So, all the things are not very clearly, elaborately mentioned in the Vedas. It is hidden. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came and he explicitly made it very simple. This whole bhakti culture, he made it very, very simple. And he says that Prema Pumarto Mahan, the highest perfection for all living entities is to attain the love of Godhead. That is, you whatever you do, you think of Krishna and you relate to him and you do this thing. For example, you are cooking and you are doing some other activities. Everything should be offered to Krishna. With that consciousness you do, that is considered as a perfection of life. So it is whether, in which ashrama you are there, in which varna is there, those are all immaterial. The highest perfection is to attain the Prema Pumarto Mahan, love of Godhead. This is enunciated throughout this Srimad Bhagavatam. And this is also, in this, the set of sloka number 8 to 15, this of this particular today's session, it's all talked about the importance of bhakti and glories of bhakti. So with that, we conclude our session here. And again, the next session, it talks about bhakti processes. So now we have understood what is bhakti and what are the processes is explained in the next class. Thank you. So any questions or any comments? Hope I already exceeded 4 minutes. I'm sorry for it.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Very so nicely explained. In case any
Thank you, Prabhuji.
any question anyone has?
Nothing at present, Swami.
Okay. Fine. So we close the class now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hare
Thank
Krishna.
you, Sachin. Thank you,
Thank you
Prabhuji.
so much.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
bro.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you very much.
ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय
Jai.
की जय गो प्रमाण